What's good, fam? Next 48 hours going to be mad wild for stimulus checks. I'm sorry. I decided this week's going to be the week of awkward intros, and that was literally my third take because I kept laughing every time I did that. Anyways, the next 48 hours is going to be very interesting for stimulus checks, as we have the House vote set for this evening, and then Biden is set to finalize the stimulus bill either this evening or tomorrow at some point as of right now. So we have a lot to cover. I have a lot of frequently asked questions about both the stimulus checks that are set to come out, unemployment that is seeing some changes, the Paycheck Protection Program. I have some big updates there that I want to cover. And also, Janet Yellen has addressed inflation in regards to the stimulus check, so we're going to address that at the end of this video. So let's just hop right in. Like I said, I've been absolutely flooded with questions about the new stimulus check and unemployment, so allow me to address some of the more popular questions. That way you can have some peace of mind as to what exactly is going on here. So first question, is there a partial payment for high earners this time around? So with the other stimulus checks, there's that income limit, but then there's this phase out period. And the answer for this is yes. However, that phase out period is much smaller. So for individual filers, you get the full check up to $75,000 a year adjusted gross income. That scales down to $80,000. So the phase out is really fast. For joint filers, it goes from $150,000 to $160,000 for the phase out, where the stimulus check hits $0. And then the phase out ends for head of households at $120,000 per year adjusted gross income. Next question, do college students count as eligible dependents to receive that $1,400 payment? The answer here is yes. This is the first time a stimulus check allows adult dependents and college student dependents to get that payment. But it's not the college student or the adult dependent that gets the payment. It's the taxpayer who has that adult dependent claim on their taxes who will receive that payment. Also, do older relatives who live with a taxpayer get the stimulus payment? The answer here is yes, same situation. If that older adult relative files their own taxes, though, they will receive their own stimulus payment. If you, for instance, have a parent that lives with you and they are your dependent on your taxes, you'll receive the $1,400 payment yourself for that adult dependent. How you decide to disperse that is completely up to you. Next question, which year of income determines eligibility? So we just received some guidance on this. We still don't have the final bill text, but it's looking like whatever your most recent tax return filed is what they base the stimulus check on. So luckily, if you've been watching me for a while, you waited to file your tax return if you earn more money in 2020, because I've worn this no less than 4 times in the last couple of months. And it panned out that way. So if you earn more money in 2020, still hold off on filing your tax return, especially if you're within that 75 to 80,000 range, because it'll mean receiving a larger stimulus payment. Or like, let's say in 2019, you made $60,000 adjusted gross income, and then in 2020, you made $90,000. That is literally the difference between getting a stimulus payment and not. So file your taxes accordingly. Unemployment. If I filed my taxes in 2020 already, how do I claim the tax break? Now, this is an interesting question. Under the new stimulus bill, there's going to be a $10,200 limit of unemployment benefits where you do not have to pay taxes on that amount of benefits for 2020. And this is huge, but if you already filed your 2020 taxes and paid taxes on that $10,200 in benefit, how do you change that? Well, there isn't official guidance yet, but you will at least be able to amend your tax return in order to receive that credit back. Worst case scenario. Now, they might come out with some system that's easier to use than amending your tax return, but worst case, you will be able to get that solidified. Kind of another reason to hold off on your tax return if you don't absolutely need to file it yet. Now, in paycheck protection news, I know a lot of people are really excited about the PPP, and it expires soon. So there's some urgent news here. First off, Wampley's Fast Lane product is set to accept 2020 tax returns very soon. It's not yet, but like within 24 to 48 hours is what we're expecting. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you're subscribed because I will post a video walkthrough as soon as that is eligible, because I know for a lot of people, you want to base it off of your 2020 returns. Maybe you earn more money in 2020 versus 2019, and that will mean a higher PPP for you. So I will let you know as soon as that is eligible. But I can tell you they are working on getting this thing out soon, and I keep bugging them. So I'm constantly in their ear like, when's this going to happen? When this is going to happen? Because I want to tell you when you can use this. Next question. What do you do if you applied with Fastlane, but you haven't heard back from Womply yet? I've received this several times. Most people, it seems like it goes through, there's no issues, but I've received it several times where someone will say they applied. It says, expect to hear back within 24 hours. 24 hours goes past, you haven't heard from them. First off, don't worry. I reached out to them on this and they said most people expect like 3 days processing time because they're just getting way more applications than they thought and they're processing all of them. So expect 3 days. I would say even expect 3 to 5 days. If it's longer than that, also check your junk or spam folder. Tons of people have said it landed in their spam folder, the confirmation email. Check that, because chances are if you haven't received it, check that. If both of those don't work, reach out to their support@womply.com. Now, if none of that works, you've tried absolutely everything, you can then send me an email and I will forward that email to their customer support personally and make sure that this goes through. But please only do that if you have tried everything first, because I can only respond to so many emails. And if I'm bogged down by a bunch of people who haven't tried everything and I'm just going to have to say, hey, you didn't try these steps, just don't do it unless you have actually tried everything. Because I really honestly am like here to help people who are in need. Like I wouldn't say email me unless I actually wanted to legitimately help people and spend my time. Like I respond to so many emails every single day about this. So just make sure you tried everything first before you email me, and then I will absolutely help you. Now, next question, can I apply for the Paycheck Protection Program if I got an EIDL loan? The answer here is yes. You just can't use the Fastlane product. You can use any other SBA lender, or you can use the Womply regular application. If you click that link in the description, go to the application, just don't use the Fastlane, use the regular one. It works totally fine if you had that EIDL loan. Does credit matter? I know I've addressed this several times, but I keep getting asked this on every single video. You do not need a good credit score in order to get a PPP loan. Not ever, not now. You don't have to worry about it. If you're worried about your credit score, I did just post a video on that, on how to increase your credit score. I'll stick that above. So check that out if you do want to increase your credit score in a free way. I found a pretty cool way to increase your credit score. Oh, and also there's one thing I wanted to point out just about the Paycheck Protection Program in general and dealing with any lender. I know the process has been frustrating for a group of people. For most people, it seems these applications just go through. It doesn't matter who the lender you use, they just go through. But a group of people are just inherently running into issues with their PPP loan. And we have to remember these systems are being built on the fly and changing every single week. So you have like these third-party businesses like Womply who build these systems to sit on top of government systems, and then the government changes rules, so they have to retool their systems, and then we expect the systems to work perfectly on the day the rules are changed, and that's just unfortunately not how things work. If we think about software that we use every single day, that is tweaked and tweaked over time and not fit to specific governmental rules that are changing daily. Like we're used to using software that is perfected before we use it. So that's why there's usually not hiccups. So I just want to point out there are going to be hiccups no matter who you apply through. But again, as long as you reach out to support, most of these, no matter who you apply with, most of them will be resolved. And there still are a couple questions we don't know about the Paycheck Protection Program that I am just itching, absolutely scratching to get an answer for. The first one is, if or when will the program be extended? The Paycheck Protection Program, right now it expires March 31st. We haven't received any necessarily forward-moving progress in the last few days here, so that's why I always say just apply as soon as possible. I think odds are better than not that it gets extended, but we just don't know for sure. Another question we don't know the answer to is if people will be able to increase their PPP size if it was based on net income in the past and they want to increase it to gross income. As of right now, there's no system to do that. If we see the program extended, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some way to bump that up, but unfortunately, as of now, there's nothing. So now let's talk about inflation. Janet Yellen has come out and talked about inflation in regards to the new stimulus bill that is set to be passed. She basically said, Pelosi says she's going to sign it. Biden says he's going to sign it. Here's what it's going to do to inflation. Because I know a lot of people are concerned about this, and rightly so. So if I were to sum up what she said in 3 words, those words would be, it's no biggie. Seriously. But In all seriousness, Yellen is not concerned about inflation whatsoever. So here's kind of the points that she gives about inflation. She said inflation before the pandemic was actually too low. So any additional inflation that's created up to a reasonable level, which is around 2%, what they aim for, is actually good. So this helped address a low inflationary environment. Not necessarily deflationary, which we don't want that either. But they actually aim for about 2% inflation. So she's saying it was too low beforehand. This will actually help that. She also said the stimulus bill will help address the K-shaped recovery, which is more important than worrying about inflation. In her opinion, the K-shaped recovery is basically the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And she's saying this will address the poor side of that equation. And Biden also kind of talked about this in his speech about the stimulus bill the other day, where he said the stimulus payments are going to lift millions of families above the poverty line just by that few extra $1,000s that are being sent to so many people. Also, she said that there are many tools now to deal with inflation if it comes down to that. Now, I'm always concerned when someone isn't concerned at all, because that just feels to me like they're not really thinking about it that much. I'm also always concerned that the sentiment that we know everything right now. I know I've said this before, but we look back at the 70s and we're like, oh, they didn't know anything. Inflation was 9%. Their tools and systems were horrible. But in the 1970s, they were looking back at the 1930s and saying they didn't know anything in the 1930s. We're geniuses now. There's going to be a point in history where people look back to 2021 and they say, wow, we didn't know anything back then. We were so dumb back then. We have to remember that this isn't our final form. So there's always some concerns there whenever anyone is super confident about anything, like they're not worried about it. But overall, I think how inflation is dealt with is better than ever. And of course, it's important to look at the experts, and not just one expert. Look at experts all around and get the varying opinions, and then build context based on all of those opinions put together. So that's going to do it for today. I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day. What's good, fam? We got